So when we were talking about a more midline case, somebody having dysbiosis in the gut, you talked about these specific species that you'd have that person ingest. Well, have you actually talk more about what form that would be? Would it be a probiotic, or how would they get that in there?
So that really depends on what I think we might need. So if I see that someone is lacking like folate and K2, then I'm going to look at the bacteria DE111, which is from natto and some of the Asian foods. But when we have that in our microbiome, we make all those things for us. So that I would probably just do from a supplement for ease. I do take into account the person I'm working with. And I just want to be honest about that. Some of my people are jet setters. And so for them, we're going to do supplements. That is so much easier with them. If someone is a homesteader, then we're going to make the ferments, but we're going to seed it with the right thing. So it's not uncommon for me to tell someone, okay, we're going to source this microbe. And sometimes I go direct to a lab to be able to get the right subspecies that I want. And then I'll have them start making a ferment where it can grow in, but isn't guaranteed. So like, if you buy a kimchi, many of them have L-Sakai, but not all. Okay, so we might start our own kimchi and we'd use a store-bought ferment that is a real ferment as the starter plus that probiotic. And then once we get that first bottle, we don't have to keep buying it because we can now just keep that ferment alive with the kimchi. So if I have someone who is in the kitchen or is really trying to heal, we do that because it saves a ton of money. It also makes you more independent, which is always a good part of health, right? And it's you get often higher amounts when you do that. But there are exceptions, like we have a lot of dopamine deficient diseases. Parkinson's is a good example. Long COVID is another, but also things like ADD and depression, and some of these shift work conditions as well. And sometimes there's a wonderful prepackaged product. Like if I can plug in something, I don't represent them. They don't know who I am. But there's this great product that you can get on Amazon called Lifted that has this combination of bacteria that's amazing for producing dopamine. And they don't even have on their label the subspecies, but anyone who works in microbiology, if you contact the company, you will be so impressed. It's amazing what that can do. So whenever there's something like that, I'll always get that. So I take into account the ease plus the lifestyle and what is needed to get that bacteria to really work, because and I guess I should state this too, the bacteria have very set homes that they need. So I think in the last one, I talked about Nissl 1917, the beneficial E. coli that eats pathogenic E. coli. Well, that one belongs in the colon. And it would be easy to think, oh, that should be in the vaginal canal for someone who gets UTIs. No, that can cause a lot of problems in the vaginal canal. So where it goes and how you take it in is actually important. So we take that into account.
All right, we've stated a lot of nuance, and obviously this conversation requires that. Everybody's different and they've had different histories. But for the person out there who just wants general rules to follow to maintain a healthy microbiome, what would that look like? You've mentioned fermented foods. You've talked about this specific product, but what are things that you're doing now that you have your health back that you're doing specifically to maintain a healthy microbiome?
That I can answer. And I do want to say I'm sorry. I know my answers are never clear. It's because I work with the full gamut. So it's humbling. You get humbled in real practice and you just learn to not have these solid yes and no's. But the things that are the most important are getting out in the light for sunrise. That's huge for the microbiome. Avoiding blue light in the house, using things like candlelight and red light as much as you can. A bit of blue light in the morning is perfectly good. It stimulates dopamine, serotonin, and melatonin later at night. Having a truly pitch black bedroom at night, and I mean pitch black, it should be like a cave. Like if you wake up 2 hours later, you cannot see a shadow. That kind of room is necessary for the microbiome because as much as we've talked about diet today, our bacteria, they communicate through quorum sensing. That's vibration, sound, and light. And so these things make a massive difference for them. In fact, sound is massive for the microbiome and for our fungal body as well, which we haven't even touched upon, but that's massive. So sound and light plus human contact is very important. The other thing that I would say, for if you want a healthy microbiome, you stop using store-bought things on your skin, really, and on your hair. You use the traditional methods, which are far more effective. Like yogurt on your skin is amazing, y'all. Boys and girls, like amazing. So using yogurt on the skin, that gives you acetophilus, which is what belongs on the skin, the halobiome, right, is what it's called. Not using things that damage the microbiome, like bleach and real soaps. So traditional soaps get rid of pathogenic bacteria, but not the good. Our modern soaps do both. So using a lot less of those kind of things, eliminating scents like candles, just use essential oils instead. Those are actually bigger than the dietary things. The dietary things come in once that's been accounted for. Now, in addition to that, I always like to rope in clothing because we are living in plastic. What we wear is a huge factor on the microbiome. One, certain fabrics are not going to let light in, and our bacteria on our skin require light to function well, in addition to the light that goes in past that. So internally as well. The biggest one, though, is the toxic load, right? Our bacteria are very much affected by the toxic load in our body. And when we wear plastics, polyesters, and all these fabrics, one of the worst ways that we kind of wear ourselves down is through the inhalation of them. They release these tiny little particulates into the air, and then those go into our lungs, and that is a huge labor for our body and our liver to remove. Now, traditionally, humans would be detoxing these fat-soluble toxins through the breath in the lungs, about 70% of them, right? But for that, you need to have perfect posture and perfect sinuses and perfect facial structure, which almost no one has these days. So then the liver gets the bulk of the burden. And when it's so busy doing that, it creates this sludge. I'm speaking metaphorically, but it's like a sludge. And so it can cause more of the bacterial overgrowth within the body. And then that bacterial overgrowth produces more toxins. And so you can see where that goes, right? And so reducing the toxin load within the house and within your daily life is honestly the biggest part of it. And then dietary items come in second. Now, the things I think are the most beneficial are getting your condiments right. Traditional condiments are all ferments. You can make mustard in less than 3 minutes, and it is delicious, and it is a probiotic ferment. So make your hot sauce, right? For all the all the slander I've thrown towards nightshades, hot sauce is the least of all the offenders because it is fermented well. So you do still have a bit of the solanine, but it's nothing like eating a whole potato. Get your ferments, get your condiments as ferments, and you're getting a whole wide range of things that you're getting in on a daily basis without thinking. Do that, plus add some yogurt under your skin, and you've made it a long way if you get the light and lots of hugs and hopefully some pets in there.
All right, a lot I want to get into within that. Starting with the body building up toxins from the environment. If you're working with somebody who has been living a more traditional lifestyle, and by traditional, I mean Western, classic, typical lifestyle in the West right now, is there a certain protocol that you like to give them in the beginning to clear the body of those things, or using things like saunas? So it could be either things that we're taking in supplement wise to detox, or things like saunas to help facilitate.
I mostly start cleaning up their life is what I do. So most of the people I work with are too sick to bring in the saunas in the beginning. If I'm working with a weight loss case or a mild health issue, absolutely. We go for saunas and sweating. We try to do a lot of sweating and also breath work. There's set forms of breath work that can help as well. So we definitely do those. I don't do binders. I know a lot of practitioners do, and that's certainly a fine way to go about it. It's just not a way that I go. If I'm working with a weight loss case that has been resilient, like they've tried quite a bit and it hasn't worked, then in those cases, I would do the high soluble fiber foods. So I might do like a lot of broccoli, and we would do very lean in that case, so that that fiber, there's two kinds of fiber, and one of the forms the human body does not eat, neither does our bacteria. That's the form that we would use. So we're not talking about total cereal here, right? It's like artichokes. But that will, if you don't eat fat with that same meal, that will bind to the fat soluble toxins within the fat cells and pull that out through phase 2 and 3 in the liver. So we'll do that in certain cases. You do have to be healthy enough for that. So I can't do that in all cases, but definitely in some. Yeah.
All right, just so I'm clear. So when you take in this special fiber, it helps bind toxins and helps with weight loss?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, there's many different ways to climb the mountain of weight loss, and they all work, but that is a really great one. It's a great one. Yeah, it's very effective because our fat cells, they do many things, but one of the primary things they do is store fat soluble toxins when the body can't handle it. And so those, just like the solanines, they're harder to remove from the body. They need to go through phase 2 and 3 of the liver, which is often very busy processing our cortisol and our sex hormones and other things. And so when we bring in the foods that are high in the soluble fiber, especially in lean meals, then it can really bind to that and help facilitate the removal of that.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch a full episode. I'll see you over there.
We've been told to push fiber and that it's good for bacterial diversity, but diversity doesn't equal health. What equals health is what bacteria are in the gut. We like to think the microbiome is the gut. It's not. It's everything. Getting a lot